Great points that he's made. Now we are going into our question and answer segment of this, so that we ask our ushers to grab the microphones. We was going to ask everyone to go to the side, but since we have our ushers here, we can just go to this. We just ask you to raise your hand right now. We ask that you, the lecture has already been given by Dr. Swice, so we don't need any more lectures tonight. Hint? Questions? We need one more usher on this side over here with this mic, please. Thank you very much. Now, I know we have some questions with all that presentation right there. You know, I was amazed by something that he said, that many of the men who didn't believe in God had fathers who were not in their lives. I'm a product of not having a father, but I had a mama that whooped just as well. And she had us trusting. So I don't know how some of you feel about the absence of a father, if it make you believe or not believe in God. It's really amazing to me that the atheists, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to no one that doesn't believe in God, but for those who have many excuses, that's not profound. Yes, sir.
Dr. Weiss,
Is
there an undeniable proof about the existence of God?
Is there undeniable proof of the existence of God?
Yes.
I don't think so. Undeniable proof? No, I think
Undeniable proof. Proof with beyond any doubt, with absolute certainty.
The very term presupposes something. It presupposes that everybody is in agreement on what something needs to be reasonable. So what I think is reasonable may not be what somebody else thinks is reasonable. I don't think that's possible to have undeniable proof for most things, especially non-physical. You can't prove a spiritual being from God, unless you talk about incarnation in Jesus' natural, which is physical.
Yes.
Historical figures, and there's something else. But spiritual, no, I don't think so. No.
The reason I ask this question, my mother, a born-again Christian, says all the philosophers are doing devil's job. They don't do good job. My mother told me this. Undeniable proof, to my opinion, is, I was asked this question by a Jesuit professor of philosophy, Father Louis Condell. He said, "Sir, you have denied all the proofs of the existence of God." I said, "Did I?" He said, "Yes, you did." I said, "I have my own proof." "What's your proof?" "Human beings are the only creatures in this universe who are obsessed with this question. So our consciences, that in search for God, is a gift from God. That's my proof of the God's existence."
Thank you.
Good evening, Professor. I enjoyed your lecture. I would like to ask a quick question. You mentioned David Hume while you were speaking. Through my studies, I understand that he has the theory of observation and experience. So based upon that theory, we understand that 2 + 2 is 4, like we saw in the video. A triangle has 3 sides. So based upon that theory, how do we actually know, irrefutable, that God is real, He exists, and this is a reality?
The question is asking, how do we know for sure whether there's a God? Yes. About 10 years ago, I proposed to my fiancée, who said yes. Now she's a wife.
All right now.
She's still with me, which is a miracle there. When I proposed to her, I knew a little bit about her. Her background, her belief systems, and what she believes and doesn't believe. I watched her for a while, very scrutinizingly watched her and asked her too many questions. Matter of fact, when we started dating, I wrote her a long letter telling her that I'm interested in pursuing her for possible marriage with footnotes. So I was very detailed. I don't know if that bothered her, scared her away, but she stayed. I didn't know for sure what kind of woman she'll be 5 years later or 10 years later. I could not possibly know that. So I had to take a step of faith based on the knowledge I had. So I think the knowledge that we have in the universe, such as the laws of mathematics, thermodynamics, the weak nuclear force of the universe, the professor mentioned human nature's ability to reach out for something beyond itself, are evidences that kind of build up the mountain that we can climb. But at the end of that climb, the evidence, the mountain of evidence We still have to jump, not into the dark, but into the light. And that would be a step in jump in faith. After you have looked at the evidence. Otherwise, it would be a jump into the dark, and that's dangerous. But I think that's how I would address it. Good one.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Dr. Swice. A fascinating discussion. I enjoyed your lecture. The question I have is an ethical question. As we look in the world today, we see things like prostitution, we see rape, we see incest, even bestiality. And some would argue that these things are occurred in the Bible, such as the Israelite King David and his adulterous affair with Bathsheba, or his own children, where his son Ammon raped his own sister Tamar and was murdered by his brother Absalom, or even Abraham, who was known as the father of faith, and his marriage to his half-sister Sarah. So in light of that, as Christians, how can we approach these issues as far as the Bible is concerned, or with the Bible, some would say that the Bible is outdated and it can't deal with these issues. So what would you say about that?
Excellent question, Vanessa. Wonderful question. By the way, the cards. Did you want to announce that? Pass the cards out.
Yes. Ushers, it's time to pass the cards out for the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now let me address your question.
Okay.
When we read an ancient document like the Bible, which is 66 different books from different regions and written by multiple authors, there's a difference between two major words I think we need to keep in mind. Prescription and description. The Bible describes Bathsheba, the affair with Bathsheba. It describes the rape of Tamar. It describes the incest and terrible things that have happened. Those are described, not prescribed. They're not commanded to have incest, to rape, and others. They're not commanded. Their prescription, their descriptions won't actually happen. And sometimes God doesn't allow those things. But they're not prescribed, they're described. And I think that's an important distinction to make when reading those types of stories. I think there are stories that we can learn from because they're real. It doesn't try to shadow it. I remember reading a story when I was younger about one of the great saints of the time when I grew up. It was St. George or something? I think it was. I'm not sure. But anyway, I watched the movie on it. And the movie had nothing but a perfect childhood for this guy. The guy didn't even have any snots when he was little. It looked completely unreal to me, and I was only 12. This is unbelievable. The Bible presents a real people, dirty, rotten people who are redeemed, who get redeemed. And I'm convinced heaven is not for good people, it's for forgiven people. And that's the Bible has those actions. That's how I would address it. That's a wonderful question.
Any more questions? You have a question in the back? I have a question while we're waiting to get there. Dr. Swice, where the Bible has not been modified since its creation, why do man attempt to change the laws and the ways of the way mankind live to suit what the Bible said, and all this disrespect in doing so? So we talk about gay marriage, we talk about a lot of things that they have changed. The Bible has never been modified, as I know. So why do man try to do that?
The Bible that we have today, the manuscripts that we have been modified and changed. The original manuscripts, which the ancient Christians have called the inerrant manuscripts, have not. And from those, we can go back to using something called the science of textual criticism to figure out what actually was said. I hesitate to recommend this book, but I will. It's called Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman, where he actually documents the evidence of the issues of biblical textual criticism and the changes and things of that nature. Although his conclusion, I think, is wrong. His data, his facts are right. Anyway, the question is, how can people change the laws that God has put down? It's happened since the time of the Tower of Babel all the way till today. We have something wonderful called, it's a curse as much as it is a blessing, free will.